Hello, everyone. We're back for another episode at the Edge Summit, New York City. My name is Elena Kachon. I'm your host today, and I am here with none other than Phillip Jackson, co-founder of Future Commerce. Welcome.
I'm so glad to be here.
I know. So we actually work together a lot, so I'm very excited to get your perspective on all things AI and personalization, and obviously we're here at the Edge Summit, so we've got a lot of things to cover.
Yes, and it's amazing. This has been such a great time.
Yeah, the digital content studio is really cool. We got the behind the scenes vibes. But you work with a lot of different brands and you work with a lot of different consumers. You guys are putting out content around the future of commerce.
That's
so
right.
I'm excited to see what your thoughts are around the rise in AI and how it's kind of shifting everybody's perspectives, whether it be roles of marketers and merchandisers, brands. I guess what are brands thinking about, or maybe like what new skills are people evolving as AI comes to fruition?
So we actually have done quite a bit of research on this over the last year. Last year we put out the first ever in the industry report of how people are using AI to bolster their careers, even if their companies didn't have a corporate mandate or policy around use of AI. So people were using it sort of off script. This year what we're seeing is most everybody is using AI day to day in their role. That's 1 year. So most businesses that do e-commerce online have a role of AI somewhere in the organization. It's not integrated into a lot of the tools, right? So they're pulling these things together in sort of like a form of orchestration, if you will. So they're making their own team and their own org out of separate, disparate, disconnected AI suites. Where this is going is they're becoming like evangelists in their organization. And these people are like power users. And they're using it now, not just in their career, but in their everyday work, in their organizing their schedules. They're turning their friends onto AI. So we're seeing this proliferation effect that's happening starting in the role, starting in the career, around your work, but it's starting to blossom out into all of these other areas where I think that that's the consumer sort of virality effect that we need in order for AI to really take hold. And then the last thing that is really exciting for me is the use cases are incredibly creative. And as consumers are using this technology, what they're doing is they're using it to speak back, and they're using it to create and be more creative in co-creating with a brand, even if the brand hasn't given them permission yet, which I think is exciting, a little scary, and a big change from what we've seen to date in consumer tech. So very, very cool.
Yeah, even just from last year at Edge Summit, the report that we did, it's like light years ahead. I mean, we're moving at such a fast pace. So it's cool to see that the roles are specifically evolving, but I'm curious to hear what you're seeing from the consumer side as well. So obviously consumers, want to simplify like their experience, but they want it to be personalized. So I guess what are you hearing from the consumers around personalization? Are they anxious about the use of AI? Are they thinking about it? How does their data play into that?
Sure.
Are they willing to part ways just for that personalized experience? What are you thinking?
So this is like the constant tug of war. The real answer is it depends on what the brand and the brand relationship is.
Right.
So a consumer in their day-to-day life are willing to give up a little bit of personal information in trade-off for convenience or some sort of an incentive. So they understand there's a transactional relationship with the brand first in order for them to transact with the brand around the product. The next level is, how is this data being used to make my experience better? I don't think people think of it that way. We did some research over the summer where we found that consumers they don't even think about channels. They don't think about, I saw this ad on Instagram and I went to Amazon because it's more convenient. They think of that as one experience with the brand. And so this idea of like omni-channel, I think is becoming more omnimodal, where a consumer's always shopping in every channel they are, even if they're not being presented with ads, even if they're not being presented with a choice to buy, and they're using these tools to do price comparison, feature comparison. Tell me if this, one thing that came out of our research blew my mind was there was a brand who had this really expensive face cream. And the question was, this consumer presented is this sun blocking, and can I use it with a retinol product that I already use? And there was an email on this very expensive product detail page that said, contact our concierge for questions. So they emailed the concierge, And the idea or the promise is this concierge is going to get back to you in a timely manner and give you an answer to your question, typed up this long email. 2 weeks, no response from the concierge.
2 weeks.
The same question was answered in 20 seconds by AI because it looks at it and it says, well, zinc oxide is and other variants of sun-blocking SPF material is usually a key ingredient, and that's not in the ingredient list. Here's 5 other products that do contain it that have the same cocoa butter base, and it would have the same scent profile. That is not a thing that brands are trying to orchestrate, but AI is enabling. I think that's huge because the consumer is becoming more informed, even going around these typically slower channels with a brand that we're trying to make more personal. So do they want a personal experience? Yes. Are we delivering it for them? If we don't, they'll get it for themselves.
Right. Well, and that goes to my next question, and it's kind of like the age of AI, you know, what are we thinking that the future holds for brands? And that's kind of what you're saying. It's like, hopefully the brand would be able to provide that experience versus the consumer going outside and finding it for itself, right?
Yeah.
But any other predictions that you're seeing from brands, you know, leveraging AI?
Well, let's extrapolate on that one example. I think the wrong lesson to learn from a brand would be to incorporate a chat feature on that page. That's not what we want. I actually think that there's a lot more gratification on the consumer angle that we see psychologically that they found this information for themselves. It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
And highlighting that specific lack of SPF on the product page probably doesn't work for the brand either. So there is a balance there. Just coming back to the core of the question is, I think that the existing experiences that we've built for websites are really complicated, and we've also trained an entire generation of people how to shop that way. So we're not going to go undo all of that.
Right.
But I do think new modalities are emerging. So I think the chat interface is an unexplored, untapped one, and almost every single chat interface that we have today is AI enabled, whether we like it or not. WhatsApp has it, Google Pixel has it native by default, Siri AI now has it. Every single chat interface is also becoming intelligent. I think hyper-personalized experiences are a future. What I would prefer is for the brand to understand who I am without me having to educate it. There are a lot of ways to do that we're not tapping right now. So a good example would be the rarest use case in e-commerce is for someone to go, ecommerce.com. They go straight to your website and they know what they want. That's not how people find what they're looking for. We usually bring people to the brand. So we're bringing them through email, we're bringing them through SMS, or we're doing it through some ad creative. So we should know who these people are in some way. We should know who they are, what they've bought in the past. We already have a form of a relationship. Even if they're not your customer yet, the ad creative that brought them there should dictate the experience that they have when they get on the website. And we're so close to making that real without having to suck up a lot of dev time, design time. Like, these things should just exist because we already created all that creative already to bring them to the experience. So the website should wrap around that. I think that's an expectation, but no consumer knows how to say that. But I think when they realize it and they experience it, they'll feel better about it because that's how every other channel is. Instagram's that way, TikTok's that way. I can train it and it understands me.
Yes. And as a marketer, it feels a little overwhelming because you want to be able to give that experience, but how many ad creative sets do you need? And how many messages do you need to personalize? And how many segments of people do you need to appeal to? So I do think that it's a balance of what people want and what actually can be done. And that's where I think AI can, get you there a little bit faster, make you more efficient, especially for marketing teams. We see that a lot with the brands that we work with. So it's just trying to figure out ways to maximize impact. Short.
Well, think about this though too, because you understand this. You're in marketing. The channels that we program creative into also fatigue. So we can't just sit still. We always have to have more creative production.
Yes.
So that more creative production is more training data. That is more opportunities for a more personalized experience in the future. And I don't know that it has to be on a platform level. It's on the experience level. If I have that experience with Instagram, I expect that experience everywhere else I go on the internet.
Totally. And I think people are kind of gravitating towards certain channels because of the experience that they get, and they can't replicate that on some. We were just talking with our last guest about TikTok and the algorithm and how everybody's trying to like perfect this algorithm, YouTube and Netflix or whatever the case might be. So it's telling where people are spending their time and where they want to be and what's giving them that best experience. But speaking of experiences, I do want to talk about returns, because I think this is an interesting piece that I haven't talked about with any guest yet. But how do you feel like brands could be leveraging AI to kind of lower the product return rates? I know that those are increasing now, and if they're not getting the best experience, they're more likely to return. We want to lessen the financial impact. So how can brands do that using AI?
That's such a great question. Well, the using AI piece is the trick. There's no silver bullet, but I'll tell you what people have done in the past with better data to fix problems at scale with return rate. The first is there's a balance. This is demonstrable and something that from my 20 years in e-commerce experience and something we've researched heavily at Future Commerce, if you make the checkout experience too slippery, if it's too fast, you actually increase return rate as well, because people have buyer's remorse. They feel like they were tricked into buying. So there's a happy medium of friction between ease of purchase and satisfaction with the purchase. So you have to, how do you optimize that? So no one wants to hear that we're going to introduce a little bit of friction, right? And that little bit of friction could be all kinds of things. Testing that creative at scale is an AI challenge. That's an AI job. And getting that right on a per person basis, that's not just best fit average across a generalized swath of consumers, is also a personalization challenge. Now, the offer testing is something that you could do with data at scale that could be heavily segmented and really targeted. But there's all kinds of other challenges that come to bear as well. I do think it still comes down to the product being a phenomenal product. That's the best thing that you can have. And I think AI can optimize that too. But one of the issues is we just need to be more creative. Year on year now, this is our 4th year in a row doing Black Friday, Cyber Monday sort of comparative analysis at Future Commerce. The offers these days are evergreen. Brands don't even change them from year to year. They run the same ad creative year to year on Black Friday. Like, they just know what works and they're only giving that. And I think that's sort of a waste. We need to be a little more creative. And I think people would be happier if they felt like they were part of that creative optimization and working with a brand to figure out what works. When you feel you're invested, you don't feel like you're being tricked. You feel like you're partnering and co-creating with, and that's what we want to encourage.
Totally, and I think that people are kind of having these parasocial relationships with brands a little bit, and we're going to talk about that a little next week at the Vision Summit in LA, which is exciting. Minor plug, we'll both be there. But I do think that people are looking for that, feeling of wanting to stay connected with the brand and knowing that you're a part of the growth and you're a part of the experience that you want to sign 100%. Up for. So I love that you mentioned that. My last and final question, and I feel like it's only fitting for you and Future Commerce, but any trends that you're excited about, anything that you're looking forward to when it comes to AI? I was going to ask you, what do you see 50 years from now? But I feel like I'm more interested to see what you're excited about in the near or far future.
Sure. What am I excited about? Well, my big thesis in the world is I believe the world's becoming more multiplayer. And I think that this technology that we have, we're at a new epoch. And this new epoch gives us an opportunity to give people more control of their experience. I can evidence that in a million ways, but I'll just tell you how I watch Gen Alpha interact with technology. My kids, when they use YouTube, train the algorithm. They get something in their feed, they downvote it, they don't like it, downvote, comment, why is this in my feed? I hate this. I ask them, why are you so mean to creators? They're like, I'm not talking to the creator, I'm talking to the algorithm. And the idea here is they want to be directly interacting with the things that bring them personalized content, and they want to speak back to it, and they have a sixth sense around their control of it. So that multiplayer dynamic, I think, is the future. I think that means websites are more personalized. I think products are more personalized. And I do think that just Gen AI tools that allow visual creative, today it's Mid-Journey and some other, it could be something tomorrow. Those tools allow customers to be more imaginative than a lot of brands' creatives are by nature. Because brand creatives think of things like physical limitations. Consumers don't care about that sort of thing. So they can be highly creative, and I think that pushes us, and we do need push sometimes. So it's exciting. I think that's where we're heading. Now that could be next year for all I know. Things are moving so fast.
Totally. Well, we have a lot to look forward to, I think, and even just you saying that and keeping the lines of communication open with your target customers, it builds loyalty. It gets people excited to be, tapped in with the brand. So I'm excited to hear more about that next week. But thank you so much for joining. I love this conversation. So many great insights. And thank you guys all for joining. We've got some great content on the way. Again, I'm Elena, and I will see you next episode. Bye.